welcome again to my channel. My name is IJ Blunt, and this is my channel, Tell IJ. And if you're stopping by or you came across this video by chance, please hit the like button, subscribe to support my channel, and share this with your friends and family so they get to know more about my video. And before I go ahead, I'd like to let you know my channel is all about, occasionally I do a bit of reviews on maybe Netflix films I've enjoyed, Real Housewife, Bravo Productions. I'll soon be doing the Real Housewife of Cheshire UK review, but most of all, I focus on stories and topics that empowers us as human beings. And indeed, if you have a story you would like to share with me or my audience, please get in touch with me, and I promise you, your name will be kept anonymous. And like I always say, a story shared is a problem halved, because we tend to learn from others, and when we hear about other people's joys or tribulations, it kind of strengthens us to know, especially when people are going through tribulations that they have overcome, you come to realize that you're not alone. And sometimes in stories, there are things every one of us can learn. Anyway, let's jump in. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. So today's video is about recognizing the narcissist in your family. Yes, or recognizing narcissism wherever you are. Because, you see, this is a topic. I was talking to a friend who called me actually some couple of weeks ago. And despite the fact, my friend, she's had a lot of ups and downs, and I'm always there. I'm proud to say I'm always there to give a good listening ear. And she's a very intelligent woman, well-read and well-traveled and you name it. But until I actually gave her that word and told her, look it up, and she explained everything that was going on with her and her husband and things, she unexpectedly was like, oh my gosh, she says, called me 2 days later or said, texting me that, oh my God, IJ, do you know you were spot on? You were this. This. And then she started even telling me things I never knew existed in their marriage for as long as it lasted. And this guy hasn't changed. And what I said to my friend, I said to you, why I like talking about relationships. I like talking about emotions and things that affect us as human beings. And the reason is, either when you're watching this, you're either the perpetrator, which sometimes people are horrible to people and they may not know, and maybe my video might hit home and make you realize how badly you've made other people feel, and hopefully you change your ways. Or you might be the victim, and in that case, like I always say to everyone, whether it's relationship, business, or work, or anything, life, excuse me, just my alarm. I beg your pardon, I had to remove my alarm to remind me I'm so busy today. So, with life, personally, I've always said it's easier to deal with any situation or problem when you know what you are dealing with. Often as human beings, why some people tend to lose control or confuse, or you allow a situation traumatize you for so long, is when you don't really understand why. Where is this coming from? Why is this person doing this? So that's why I want to talk about narcissism. Especially, narcissism, first of all, let me declare this, is in every race, every culture, every nation. And what I'm saying applies to anybody, whether you're white, black, pink, Asian, African, Caribbean, American, British. But because clearly I'm a proud, brown, African origin British woman, I would like to also add this and say, from experience, sometimes I feel from what I've seen on different channels or people that have called me in confidence that narcissism in families seems to be more prevalent in African society and more likely Asian, but I say African because I'm saying from where I come from. So most of what I will be talking about, if you're African or you're British African, American African, Caribbean African, Spanish African, whatever, and you are European or you are Caribbean, listen to this and hopefully you will learn something. How do you identify narcissism in a family member? And often narcissism or narcissistic ways are often more prevalent amongst siblings of a family than parents of a family. Sometimes parents, it does happen, even though from my little, I'm no psychologist, but I follow a lot of experts, and like I keep saying, because of my own personal experiences with people and all over the world, is the fact that when we hear narcissism in more like, let me use the word Western family, I say Western in European or the like, it often seems to apply to, we know that a lot of parents who can be narcissistic. Some parents don't necessarily have that maternal instinct. And I've heard victims talk, cry, and all that kind of thing. But let me focus this, like I said, narcissism in the family, especially in the African setting or Asian setting, is often more prevalent among siblings. And often, this is often as a result of the way the older generation, by that I mean like, those parents that were born maybe the 1940s, 1930s, 50s, or even 50s, and also the way they raise their children. For example, I come originally from the southeastern part of Nigeria. Before I got married, left, and obviously I'm British. I'm proud of my two countries. And in the southeastern part of Nigeria, it's very common, all Nigeria as a whole, where even whether they're Yoruba, Igbo, even Ghanaians have a similar thing, Kenyans have a similar thing. You're often brought up in a household of children, maybe depending on age. One child is meant, or some children are meant to call the other person, oh, sister A, sister B, or brother this and that. That was the style, the way, and some people still do that today. I always said, even if I was married to a Nigerian, because of my personal experience, I was never going to raise my children to put seniority before anyone, because I have seen many families where everybody calls everybody by their name, and guess what? The love rules. And there's nothing wrong with that. I understand, don't get me wrong, I love our African culture, but it's not everything we call culture that is culture. Some of it, to me, in my opinion, is toxicity that certain people uphold because it suits them. And so you find in some families like this where there's seniority placed amongst children. As these children grow up to be men and women, if care is not taken, I'm not saying that every family, but majority of families and people I know today, half of them don't even want to talk to their siblings. Half of them are sick of their siblings. Half of them are sick of their families. And it shouldn't be. It's very sad. But this comes from the way that generation raised their children. And I don't think our mothers or fathers or that generation raised that with the intention of making any of their children feel neglected or less loved, or once, as my late father said, nobody chooses what position they're born into any family. So let nobody, because of seniority, you're making your younger sibling like they're your slave, or you can talk to somebody anyhow. Hell no. And this is where many families go wrong. And so how do you identify a narcissist? And unfortunately, like I said, when this way of raising children have been introduced, it is up to the parents, and we'll just say mothers, even though back then only mothers seemed to raise children. When the child was good, oh, it's the man's son. When it was bad, oh, woman, you are the bad person. You didn't raise this child well. Anyway, thank God we live in a different era. And if care is not taken, if you are a parent watching this and you're African or Asian, or your culture, maybe even South American culture, you guys practice the same or similar thing, you have to keep an eye on your children in order to make sure that none of the older children are getting a sense of grandeur or abusing that or making, almost, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't even make sense to me. You all are born from the same mother. You all came out from the same belly, but for some reason, one person thinks because they're older than the other person, and that other person complaining, sometimes, in my experience, they don't even realize what they are complaining about the older sibling doing to them, they are doing even worse to the younger sibling. And so nobody takes accountability. So how do you identify a narcissist? Because you see, a lot of this toxicity that goes on amongst siblings in families, of African families in general, is actually, you see that there's narcissism ingrained without even people realizing. Sometimes these people may even have a different kind of mental issue. When I say mental issue is not just about somebody being naked and walking around. There's so many variety of mental issues where people don't even, as a lady who's a Nigerian vlogger once said, there's so many sick people walking around in Nigeria, half of them don't even realize. And because of the shame people attach to mental health, nobody, even when people need as simple as just therapy or talking to somebody, nobody talks or takes it seriously. And so people learn to bottle up a lot until some people, it explodes and it spills. If you're in a family and you're wondering, or maybe you've been struggling, asking, why is this person treating me that way? How you know a narcissist? Is a narcissist the person in your family situation that is often talking down to you or talking carelessly, disrespectfully to you when you were younger, you were little or a teenager, and they continue without recognizing that you are not that same baby that they told you, oh, I'm 9 years older than you, I'm 10 years older than you, I'm 15 years older than you. Of course, if you're older than me, someone is going to be older than you. That if someone is older than someone does not guarantee bullying, because that is what happens in a lot of families. And often, the younger or youngest person is expected to suck it up, keep swallowing. And we are human beings, and often talk about, about YouTube. I'll say app. People talk app because they often relate it only to marriage. Oh, is a man abbing the wife or whatever. But the truth is that there's so much app that goes on within families among siblings. And the bitter part of it, from my observation, and if you're African, Asian, South American, or whatever, especially African, you're from Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Togo, Cameroon, whatever, Benin, and you come across this, I'd love to hear from you. And if you have a story to share, please, by all means, subscribe, connect with me, send me an email. I'd love to bring you on the show, or you can simply write and I will keep your name anonymous. And what is sad is that often the perpetrators of this narcissism, usually the older the sibling or the relative, the more prevalent. They, for whatever reason, I don't understand it, I really don't, because even though we are all raised by parents of certain generation, it is not an excuse. I am a great believer that as we get older, especially those of you that have traveled or those of you that claim to be educated, we learn to do better. We can learn to correct some of the things we feel our parents, they meant well, they didn't do it deliberately, but you don't perpetuate it. And one thing that struck me, I was listening to another YouTuber who's a Nigerian British guy who touched upon a similar thing topic. He talks about basically this guy, and I know he's right. A lot of the toxic, abusive thing. Oh, sorry. Oh God, YouTube. I hope you don't flag my video. Anyway, things that happen in families that should stop. And this guy called in, which touched me, and I wish that more people could come to that realization, swallow their ego, and make peace and apologize, or learn to have a better relationship with their siblings or cousins or whatever. And he confessed that before he left Nigeria, I think he called him from America or Germany, he was raised exactly the same. And I realized that this thing I'm talking about is so prevalent in a lot of Nigerian families and Africans. And he was one of those, and he would not lie. He wanted to confess something. He was the first, or he is the first son. But since after he left Nigeria, and with enlightenment and coming to realize that this kind of things are wrong, that even he had to call his younger siblings and apologize and take a step back and say to himself, I can no longer continue to disrespect these people just because I'm 8 years older than them, or because I'm the first son, or whatever. And being in the West and the amount of information and how people treat people with dignity and respect opened his eyes. But even back then in Nigeria, this is what he said that struck me. Even he knew sometimes that this was wrong. But because it favored him, being the first, he would often command his younger brother or younger, and sometimes they butted heads. But he would never want to be that person, and he made a path that his children now, I think he has a young family from what he was saying, he will never do that again. Now, I applaud that person, and that is another thing you find in a lot of families. The older the siblings, the more the ego. You see, when you're dealing with a narcissistic sibling or a narcissist will go to any length to protect their ego, their lives. In fact, put it this way, they would like to control you. Even if you're married, they are married, they want to tell you what and how they like things in their home, which you most likely will respect. But because you're the younger sibling, you find yourself, people from all corners trying to tell you what to do, because in their eyes, you're the youngest, you always be 20-something, you always be 30-something. Even when your children are in their 20s, these people will still call you, oh, that small girl. Africans, especially Nigerians, they love that nonsense. Small girl. I would even call, my son is 27. Yes, I gave birth to him. He's a son. He will always be younger than me. But I dare not, even my nephews or nieces, deliberately call someone. And it's not like small girl because they are being fondly with it. It's more like always trying to exert seniority, I don't quite understand. It's almost like an inferiority complex. I have to constantly remind you, I'm older than you. So how do you identify? A narcissist in the family will always do you wrong, but will always expect you to zip it, keep sucking it in, and if you dare react, oh my God, they will hold you almost the rest of your life. In fact, they will, a way they lie, from my experience, they will lie on you, they will connive with other people, they will drag your name and try to make everybody in the family or friends they feel you know or other relatives to see you in a bad light. And unfortunately, people are also in general foolish, because there are very few people that practice this. What I always say, I don't like, there are many families I've come across where siblings don't talk to each other, but I don't jump because one sibling isn't talking to the other. I'm keeping malice, but many people are not capable of this. Somebody comes, even though you haven't seen that person they like to about you for God knows how long, that person will jump onto the bandwagon and you are the bad guy. Nobody asks questions. And that narcissist will go to every length. If it takes 10, 20, 30, 40 years, if I put it this way, they may even be willing to die with the lies they piled on you, even when they claim to be Christians, rather than swallow their ego. Things, I know the sad thing, many of this bitterness that goes on in African families, sometimes I've analyzed, and in my little way, like I said, I'm no psychologist, I'm speaking from experience. I can only call it demonic because it doesn't make sense to me. You are siblings. Siblings are supposed to love, protect each other. But the narcissist will find it difficult, even though they will preach about God to you, to understand that in life, we all have different blessings. In life, God never said because of age, this person will be here or that person will be there. A narcissist will go to every length to cover their lives and pretend, and if you're not careful, they will flip the script and try to make you, the victim, feel like, oh, you've done them wrong. Maybe because you simply, for once in 20 years or 10 years, they lied so much against you that as a natural human being, you reacted. You didn't react that you said something so terrible, but these people will hold on to that. They fled from the origin of what they've done to you. And the reason they are lying against you is because, you know why? They try to control you. And as you're getting older, they feel you're slipping through their fingers. And it shouldn't be, but that's the way. That's why I called it a mental situation. It's a mental issue. Because it's not normal. Even the child you gave birth to. Like I said, I've got a son 27, a daughter 25, both very successful in their careers, professional people. And I've got a third one. But I could never imagine, apart from raising especially my first two, even as adults now, unless you want high blood pressure, of course I'm there to advise. They call home, we talk, but you'd be foolish as a parent to think you're going to control that child, or try to tell them who they marry, or try to tell them how they talk to their husband, how they did. Basically, you're trying to run your home and run another person's home. And I won't tell you, if you're a narcissist watching this, stop it, it's wrong. Get off your high horse. Learn to change your ways. Swallow your pride. Make peace with those people around you. And if you're the victim, don't blame yourself. Don't let them ruin your life, because sometimes these are people you probably love. People you love more than you come to realize that they love you. And I want you to know, a narcissist will go to any and every length to protect their ego. A narcissist likes to make everybody in the family, or outside especially, feel like they're the best of everybody. They're the ones that are doing everything for the family. Nobody, even when you're doing things, you might be, for those of you who are Africans, you understand, you're probably going out of your way with your hard-earned money, out of love, despite what the person has done to you time and time. You send them money, or they come to visit in America or London, you invite them, you do nice things, and each time that you're doing it there, remember what I said, they never apologize. But you, in your own grace, you think, oh, okay, let me give this person grace. Okay, maybe because they're older, and many Africans are terrible, they don't know how to apologize, or they don't want to learn how to apologize, because there's no excuse. If I can relearn, anybody can relearn. Okay, because people do things when it suits them. And you find that person could easily be taken from you and still projecting lies to other siblings, other relatives. When they talk about you, they will join in backstabbing you, saying all that is low. And how people can do this, honestly, as I said to my husband, I thank God I don't have that kind of evil spirit in me, because I cannot for the life of me see how someone could be kind to me, someone I know I have actually done wrong. Somehow your brain is saying, even though I started this with my sibling, something that you, the older person, could have squashed earlier on. No, you continue to play mind games. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Years are going by. One day you all wake up, you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and you're still claiming you're a Christian. Wake up. Stop lying to yourself. And you, the victim, don't let anybody steal your joy. That is an app. I don't want to say it in full because this is YouTube. App. App does not just happen in matrimonial homes. It's happening today. And if you're a parent, especially if you're an African parent, especially those of you in diaspora or at home, you should know better. Look at your children. Step in immediately when you see one child, especially the older one, talking wrongly at the young one. Make your children understand that you love them all equally and they all are equally your children and they all equally deserve respect amongst one another. Because what sense does it make in many toxic African families? It's okay for an older sibling for no reason to talk rudely to a younger sibling. Sometimes some of them will even be, oh, just because somebody is 5, 6 years older than you, they sit down like a madam. Oh, go and get me my shoes. Go and get... I mean, even back then, it didn't sit right. And the same person, maybe you're now in your 50s, 60s, they're still carrying that same attitude in their head. When they're talking to that sibling, because they feel they're younger, they forget they're talking to somebody's mother or father, somebody with grown children, the way you and I will not even talk to our own children. You recognize a narcissistic family member or sibling. If they're bullish, they bully you or try to tell you what to do all the time, and they call it a culture. It's not culture, it's called toxicity. Wake up. It's about time we stopped covering up every bad thing and call it culture because it suits some people. Do they often hurt you with words and expect you to do things they themselves never did for you, but they never apologize? That's narcissism. Do they often talk down to you or still look down on you? And you are probably in your 30s, 40s. Even as a teenager, no one should talk to you that way. And they're expecting to lord over you and expect you to be primitive and just take it. Or do they always try to remind you, oh, I'm your older brother, I'm your older sister? Nothing wrong with being older. We should all love our older brothers and sisters. But are they coming across as bullies? Or some of them feel because of maybe the career they have, or, you know, they don't even know you. And the other thing that's funny, when you see siblings, somebody will say, oh, I know my siblings. No, you don't. Most of you watching this, you probably, whatever family you come from, if you're the oldest, you and the younger ones are probably pathways earlier than you realize because you've had to go and start life. They eventually have to go and start life. But in your eyes, when you say you know, you're still thinking of that person as a baby. You're disregarding the experiences of life, the travels, the stage, the age. You know, you can't look at a 50-something-year-old woman and say, you know, I know all of you. No, you don't. You know, for one, the person has gone through secondary school, university, got married, traveled the world, raised children, and maybe you haven't even been around and you're still saying you know that person. No, you don't. And how you recognize narcissism in the family is when nobody wants to stand up for the truth. When you're complaining, those that claim, it's amazing how often people want to say, I'm the oldest, I'm the eldest, but yet you're not practicing your duties as the oldest. A good example is this. If a younger sibling or another sibling, even older sibling, comes to you to complain about another sibling, rather than jumping in and gossiping about your own blood, and often the gossip comes from a place where nobody has even raised the issue with the person they're complaining about. That brings me to communication. Let me not digress. Be the older person. Stop bragging and trying to bully your siblings by always reminding how much older you are. Put your duty, your birthright, into action by doing something about the complaint that you received. What do I mean? It doesn't mean shouting. It doesn't mean attacking somebody. If I came and complained, then take that complaint and go to that person and say, oh, so, I just said you did this. And you, being the older person, should be. It's actually your duty. Rather than talking about your younger sibling behind them, come to them and say, this is what I heard or what I felt and what I'm coming from. And trust me, trust and believe, you will see a different perspective, because often as human beings, we carry grudges from miscommunication. Sometimes in your mind, you're reading or over-reading. Like example, okay, I'm digressing a bit. You hear this from a lot of Africans. It's happened to me many times, but I really don't care anymore. It used to hurt, not anymore. People, maybe they have relatives from home that come to visit them in Germany, in Spain, in London, America. And you yourself that live there know how hard you work to pay your bills, to keep a roof over your head. Even if you're not complaining, whether you're rich or poor, whatever your definition is. Then you have a visitor who, in their own African mind, okay, you don't mind, you're trying to reason. We're not all European style minded, but you're giving that person accommodation, you're giving them food. Most likely, if you're like me, you're probably paying for most of their trips around, to help them enjoy. You're still buying things here and there. You're basically spending out of your normal budget zone, sacrificing your hard-earned cash. But that same person and family members, and if you're one of those people watching this, be ashamed of yourself. Take a step back, swallow, and repent and make peace. Because that same person, you hear this from a lot of diasporans, will go back home, whether to Ghana, Nigeria, whatever. The kind of lies and stories they will tell those at home, you never did anything for them, she didn't even look after us, they won't tell them, apart from the feeding that's adding a lot to your cost. A lot to your cost, that you have been shouldering a lot of their expenses, which they themselves, if they were left to spend that, most of them would not even afford to visit the UK, even forget about the ticket. Because most times you're spending hundreds that turn into 1,000 plus or 2,000 plus. What you will even do for yourself, what they never even did for you, or what their parents, nobody ever did for you. But out of greed, the narcissist is always expecting you to do what they themselves could never have done for you or have ever done for you. Because you know what? They're greedy, they're controlling, they're evil, they're ungrateful, they're dark. And it's not late to repent. You can kill people around you, but the good news about this life is nobody can kill God. Because I see this in the African community, we like to show off to people like we're good on the outside, but inside your home is in turmoil. You're still calling God when you go to church, but in your heart is so dark. So that's another way you know a narcissist. And a narcissist person often finds it difficult to accept accountability or apologize. And if you're that sibling. Maybe you never even thought of yourself as a narcissist to your siblings or in your family. Well, I'm letting you know that is a narcissistic behavior. And I urge you to change. I urge you to swallow your pride. Nobody is beyond change as long as you're breathing. I don't care your age. Anybody can change. If I can, I'm in my 50s, I'm still learning. I learn things about how I handle my children, how I handle my friends, how I handle my business. Anybody can learn, and trust and believe. If you begin to, first of all, that word I'm sorry is the only thing holding you, between you and those siblings that all of you are at loggerheads with each other. Because this thing starts from little or nothing. That's why I say so demonic. Because often when you stand back and analyze why a lot of families fall apart in Nigeria, in Ghana, whatever, it's not, to be honest, often I say, when it's an outside person, you're even able to forgive, forget, and you both move on. Why do you have to? A narcissist often holds on to bitterness. Bitterness that they most likely started, but they will never own up to it. It's always thrown back at you. You're the one that's, even though you may have been taking a lot. And once you learn to say sorry, change your ways, even if you're, in fact, the more older you are as a sibling, the more it's your responsibility to show your younger siblings what a good relationship is by acting, not telling. You can't be telling people, bullying, oh, I'm the this, I'm the that, and you're behaving like people owe you forevermore. And it doesn't matter what you've done for anyone when you were younger. That is the real natural course of life. And trust and believe, if your attitude was softer, more humble, more loving, more engaging, you wouldn't even have to mention whether you're older than somebody, because there's something called love that flows, that even those younger ones will lift you up like you never realized. Because sometimes, I will confess, I'm not a grudge holder, but sometimes even when you want to do more for some people, you feel like, I'm a Christian, you pray over these things. I don't ever want to hold grudges, and it would be a lie to hold grudges and be praying to God and asking for forgiveness every day. But you can only, sometimes you feel hindered doing as much as you want to, because you're not sure how clean a heart somebody is towards you. And some people, you're being kind, they take it like you're weak, like you need them. Meanwhile, I say, it's between me and my God. And so, the other way you notice narcissism in a family, when everything is hush-hush, you're hurting, nobody is doing anything, you're told to shut up. That is up. It shouldn't be. Don't raise children like that. And the core thing that lacks in families that end up, narcissism has broken up a lot of African families. And why? Lack of communication. If you are not used to communicating, if you are not used to expressing yourself, and you are that older person that's always carrying it in your head, everybody must come here and kick, everybody must come here and call, brother, dada, stop it today. Nobody's taking that away from you, but practice what you preach. You can't go around bullying people, expecting them to lord over them, and they will be subservient to you, even when they're in their married homes, and even if they were not married. No human being, not even my grown children, nobody likes to be controlled. And if you're trying to control your siblings, you're the one asking for trouble. What you should be looking at is engaging, exercising, showing good example of leadership by love, unity, cooperation, and learn to communicate. We are not perfect human beings. If any sibling has done something or comes to you, and that's the bit I personally found very frustrating over the years, people that claim they're older cousins or siblings or whatever, you go to somebody rather than them approach that other person. Everybody seems to be playing on their paper covering as long as they're getting what they want, or it's not my problem. And why do you think eventually it will become your problem? Because there's no way debt will keep on piling and does not extend to the rest of the family. Then in the end, 10 years later, everybody in the family, this person is quarreling with this person. The only time they talk to each other is when they're talking bad about the other person. It's so sickening, it's demonic, it's robbery, it's disgusting. And please, if you're a parent watching this, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, bring up your children with love. Bring them up with understanding for each other. Bring them up to learn that they owe each other respect, irrespective of age. Bring them up to communicate better. And never take sides. In the end, nobody wins. Anyway, on this note, recognize narcissists in your family. Are they bullying you? Do they always do things that hurt you? They never apologize? Are they always expecting you to do things because they're the older one, or because they're the older uncle or the older auntie? Are they often pretending like they're nice to people outside, but to you, their sibling or cousin, they're nasty? Are they often making you feel guilty, like you owe them something because when you were little, they did this, they did that? That's narcissism. And if you're the victim, because you're not a victim, you may not know you're a victim. I'm telling you now, because a lot of people, it happens in marriages where women are victims of husbands, but sometimes their eyes don't open until somebody brings it to their attention. And say no. Don't allow another person, sibling, cousin, whoever, mother, father, to have you. It's wrong. I'm not saying you insult anybody. I'm not a great person with it. I don't have that kind of bad man, but what I know, I mean, I actually think I've absorbed a lot more than I should have absorbed in my life time. But I believe in acting. You just don't accept it. And the person can't see the errors in their ways, however much you may love them, because I'm not going to deny, sometimes we love the siblings or cousins or fathers or mothers who have not necessarily cared to love us the way we do. Pray over it, and you can learn. You don't hate them, but pray over them, but remove yourself, because your peace of mind is very important. And remember, this life is too short, and life should be enjoyed. Don't let these people come into your life and disrupt it in any way. Before I go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Please, share this with your friends and family so they get to know more about my video. And when you hit the like button, it really helps my video so other people get to see it. And if you have a friend or family member, share this video with them and maybe enlighten each other and hopefully strike up some conversation. So, on this note, I will later be talking about narcissism in marriages, hopefully on my next video. But until then, thank you, and always remember, your happiness counts. Love one another as one family, strive for unity, and if you are an older sibling, cousin, auntie, mother, show love. Show by action of leadership in kindness and in love. And if you've wronged your younger ones, they deserve "I'm sorry" from you. You're never too big or too old to swallow your ego, because that's what it is, your arrogance, and just apologize. Make peace. So when you make peace, everybody bonds better. But all the time you people are papering over it. Somebody hurts somebody, just because I'm talking to you, we pretend we're brushing. Then tomorrow again, that same topic is raised again. You know why? Because you have not communicated with each other. You have not. I noticed this with a lot of Africans, even when you're trying to give them a platform in a peaceful way. Can you tell me what I've done? They can't, but the same people will go behind you, and somehow in their heart, the reason they can't let go of the grudge, even though they have harmed you or hurt you more than anything they claim you've done, is because they don't want to sit down and talk, communicate. Because when you sit down and talk, sometimes you see that that person's perspective wasn't even the way you were seeing it. And sometimes people do things, if they're wrong, someone like me, and that's how I raise my children. I don't care how rich or not rich I am or feel tomorrow or today, that power to say, I'm sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. When you can learn to say I'm sorry, is the beginning of the rest of your life feeling free and happy. Anyway, my name is IJ Blonde. This is my channel, Tell IJ, and thank you so much from London, UK. And until next time, please hit the notification bell so when I upload my next video, you'll be amongst the first to hear it. Bye-bye. Cut.